Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry.
Welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. Today I've got Naota Hashimoto. He is a chiropractor and entrepreneur, and we're going to dive into the 5 pillars of profit. He has founded the software TrackStat, which many of you know, and we are going to talk to you about how you can really apply technology to improve the 5 pillars of profit. And we dive into some of the nuances of being a chiropractor and how to turn a profit into a practice we have decided to do as a living. And I think the takeaway is you have to monitor this. You have to know what good profit margin is. You have to have strategies to increase the top line and decrease the bottom line. And that would be the margin, the differential between those. And what is good profit margin? And what are some of the strategies you can look at that are outside the box to improve that? Because let's face it, things aren't getting cheaper and insurance isn't paying better. But there are strategies where you can thrive. And I know a lot of really good patient-centered chiropractors implementing these strategies, providing world-class care and making a professional living. And I think you want that as well. And you shouldn't be ashamed of that. And so without further ado, here is my interview with Naota Hashimoto. All right. Welcome back to the show, Naota. This, I think, will be our third time. And we got a fresh topic and excited to talk about your ideas around the 5 pillars of profit. But before we do that, what's new in your world? What are you excited about? It's Q1 of 2025 as we record and release this.
I'm excited about all the AI stuff that we're working on and like new integrations and new kind of like partnerships. It's been a long road. I just remember kind of like when we got going, I'd reach out to certain like EHRs and they just kind of like blow me off. And now like ChiroTouch is like flying me out to San Diego, wining and dining me, and other EHRs, like I'm going to Parker and people are wanting to set up meetings before I get there versus like when we first started, no one wanted to block off time for me. And then I'd have to go meet them at their booth and just continue like doing good work for clients. So it's, it's exciting where, like I feel like people are now wanting to like work with us. So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
And you're not proud to see now you've closed that chapter, right? Soul practice, and you're all in on TrackStat. And what's that been like to make that transition? How many years did you practice? 20-ish?
17. It took me a few years to get to it. I talked about doing it for a few years, but like I have my identity wrapped up as being a chiropractor and helping people. And it seems so easy, but it was hard. Like I scaled myself out of the practice for a while where I wasn't treating patients, but it was like that last step of like just closing that chapter. Cause like I knew if I was scaled out in like a phase 2 where I'm like doing other stuff in the business and I'm not in the day to day, I could always go back to being a chiropractor. But now if I wanted to get back into practice, I'd have to start over from scratch or like go work for someone. And so it's like, it felt like that door kind of closed quite a bit. So it took me, I'd say an honest 2 years to kind of be ready to sell.
Yeah. So now you burn the ships behind you and you're ready to go forward. And I think a lot of our audience at this point is getting familiar or is familiar with what you're doing at TrackStat. And I know it's always evolving. And some people might be asking, what does 5 pillars of profit have to do with what you're doing? And we'll make that connection as we go along here. But let's dive into the 5 pillars of profit. I think, in general, I have conversations around profit with our coaching clients and with other chiropractors and some of our mastermind members. And there's a lot of, good knowledge around it. They have good basic fundamentals, but then it kind of stops there and they may not understand how to improve profit without, sacrificing quality and things of that nature. But what's your overall context around this 5 pillars of profit?
Well, it just sell for more, sell more often, kind of like automate or like reduce your operating costs, reduce your accounts receivable, and finish your projects. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, let's dive into the first pillar, and we'll kind of have some conversation around each one.
Yeah. one of the things, yeah, it took me, the first year I was out working as an associate, like you kind of give away your services for like way too cheap. And it's just like, it seems like it's so easy, but like, if I was an electrician, an engineer, or like a cardiothoracic surgeon, it's really easy for them to do that thing. So it was like, just because it's easy, should you give it away for free? And it's just selling for more. That's your price elasticity. That's going to be your margin. Now, like some people on the call might be saying, well, I do primarily insurance. How can I charge more when I'm in network with all these insurances? Or all the people in my area are low income, they can't afford it. And we it's like I tried to generate early on in practice, like at least $500-600 an hour. And I know you're telling people like you got to hit like $300 an hour, and 300 an hour, I'd say, is the bare minimum if you want to have a team, because you can't make the math work. Right. And so it's like, if you charge more for what you're doing, you don't have to kill yourself. Like I just remember when my wife was seeing all these ACT patients when we were like new in practice, we ran the numbers and she could lose 75% of her patients and still make the same amount of money. And she didn't lose 75% when she got out of network. She only lost like 25% of the patients. So like she was making way more per hour. So it's like something, if someone's doing primarily insurance, you might think of what other services can I do that are not covered by this insurance plan that I can offer. So it's like, if you did just like, let's say you're doing like a $20 up service and you had 100 visits a week and you did that for a quarter, like 25% of the people, that's a couple grand a month, right? Or if you had a decompression table and let's say you're charging $75 a visit and you got up to 50 decompressions a week, that's an extra 15 grand a month. So it's like, it adds up. It doesn't have to be from you doing a better rehab or better this. Just come up with creative things to add value to your customer, right? So you don't want to rip them off.
No, exactly. And I think that's one of the misconceptions is a lot of chiropractors out there, they find what their bread and butter is and stick with only that. And then they, have reasons or excuses or blocks of to why it wouldn't work for them or why they don't want to do that. And, it could be anything from, like you said, adding a service like, maybe it's decompression or dry needling, or it's shockwave therapy, which is what we've done. And it's been a huge um, benefit to our patients and our outcomes, but also, yeah, to this number one pillar that you're talking about. Or, the other thing that we did some years ago, more like 6 years ago, and we're in the state of Florida, is we diversified a little bit and said, okay, you know what? I don't want a personal injury practice. We're a sports-based practice and we wanted to maintain that, the essence of our practice as that. But I was like, we could do 3 to 5 new auto cases a month and it would not impact the essence of our practice, and it would significantly increase some revenue because personal injury pays 200% of Medicare, and you could do 4, 5, 6 codes in a visit if you do those things, and it just pays really well. It's kind of like the last thing that still pays good from an insurance standpoint. And so you could look at diversifying. Like, is there some types of potential patient bases that do pay a little bit better if you're insurance based and things like that? So that's some of the stuff that we've done.
Like 100% on that. Adding a modality is an easy way of doing that. But some people might say, I don't have the space or I don't have the money now. I'd say, like, if you have the space, a decompression's a no-brainer. Like a decompression, like you could do zero marketing. We never marketed for decompression, and we're doing, I don't know, like 150 decompressions a week without any marketing. And that was super easy. Patients loved it. A lot of people benefited from it. Obviously, if someone's not a candidate for it, you don't offer it. But like, even someone with like just chronic neck or back pain, you could put them on for like 5 treatments. You don't need to put them on a 30 visit package. And then like some people might say, well, I don't have the space or the money to buy a modality. PI is not good in my state. And then you say, it's like, okay, well, then I tell people, be someone to someone. Like, let's say, like, I know you've had like guys on there, they're golfers or tennis people. Like, if you're in a golf community, you could be the expert golf guy. And now instead of charging insurance for the exam, you could do a special golf eval for $300, $500. And, you got to be someone to someone, but that means that you're going to post stuff on social media. Your website's going to say you're going to be about golf. They need to understand that this is a thing that you do and you're an expert. And now you could charge more for that thing. So
I love it.
Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do this search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review.
And margin's something a lot of people don't understand. They know what profit is, but they don't understand profit margin. It's a difference to an extent. There's other vocabulary out there, like obviously cash flow. And I think that's a big thing that people struggle with as well. But the profit margin is something you have to understand. And part of that is to obviously increase the patients that are coming in, increasing the revenue on those patients. Anything else on pillar one before we move to pillar?
I'd say at the very least, just start tracking your dollar per visit average, right? You get your kind of like what you collected over your visits, and then just track that one thing. And if you start measuring it, you'll start slowly increasing it.
Yeah.
So,
And go to your point, I'll put a bow on it. Whether it's $300 an hour, $600 an hour, your capacity, you can, if you're in middle America, you could probably get away with a little bit lower. And the 300 number is kind of like a baseline. You definitely want to get higher as you go along. And you can, if you can at least hit that. And I'll give you an example. Like there was a point early in my practice where we averaged about $72 a visit, and I was kind of comfortable with 4. So what is that? About 280 to 300 an hour. Then now we're at 101 a visit, and I can see 6 an hour. So like we're at 600 an hour for myself as my capacity. And that's why, if you think about, say, a high volume chiropractor, even if they charged $55, but they saw 12 people in an hour, which a lot of high volume can easily do, the math works. And so I know a lot of the evidence-based chiropractors don't want to go that model, fine, but you got to find the way where the math works. And I think the other part of it is you got to be cognizant of the fact that, yeah, you could theoretically price yourself out of the market as well. And maybe you're only getting 5 new patients a month that are willing to pay you 400, like we have some chiropractors that spend an hour with a patient and they charge $400, $500 for that hour. You might only have so many absolute people, like numbers of people that will do that in a particular month. And so, yeah, your hourly capacity is good, but your actual revenue is not for the month. And you're struggling there because it's not a product market fit, essentially.
yeah. And I honestly feel like 20% of the people are going to be buyers, right? If you have this upper level service, 20% of your patients, no matter where you're at in the country, they're going to buy it. And if you have that upper level service, it makes your regular service look cheaper. So like you'll see companies do that all the time. They'll have like good, better, best. And like, they only know that a small percentage will buy best. And what they're really trying to sell is better. So they'll have that higher thing to kind of set an anchor to make the kind of middle pricing look better and look cheaper. And it's psychology. It works. And yes, if you have more profit, you can hire more people, hire better people, and help more people. But yeah, getting into the other model, which you're already talking about, like I'd say selling more often, right? Increasing your volume.
As pillar 2 is more people in the door, right? Yeah, and I think I got something to say on that for sure, is that sometimes people will get a number, like they see $84 a visit is their patient visit average or office visit average. And they're like, the first thing is like, I got to get that higher. I got to get that higher. And I look and it's like, well, you got a ton of room on your schedule too. You're not busy enough. And if you actually got more people in the door and there's a certain level where you can without increasing your overhead at all. And so you just need to focus on getting more people in the doors at that point. And then we can kind of curate your patient base, right? We can then be like, okay, now we can raise our rates. Now we can cut this shitty insurance out or something like that. Is that some of your thoughts on that part?
Yeah, and you go after different stuff. Like things that I did early on in practice is I targeted kind of like we'll call it a retirement community. Because like the problem is I was like when I first got out, I wanted to work with a bunch of athletes and I was like fixing them in like 2, 3, 4 visits. And it's like it's way too quick versus I take like Mary Anderson, who's 67 years old with like some chronicities. It'd take her a lot more visits to get stable. And she wasn't as good with her home exercises. So she'd come in like once or twice a month for like preventative care. But like you have your pillars of getting more new ones, getting them to start care and finish their plan, and then getting them to do some kind of maintenance. Now I know maintenance is a dirty word in some people's mind, but like musculoskeletal costs are in the billions of dollars in this country. And a lot of us are doing very unnatural things, staring down at our phones, sitting on the couch. I'm sitting here working on a computer, talking to you. And it's just, those aren't unnatural things. So, maintenance on your teeth, maintenance on your car.
Yeah.
Why not maintenance on your body?
And I've seen it shifted now. I was just at a coffee shop the other day, and there's these two. They look like seniors or juniors in high school getting coffee before school. And one girl was just like kind of bad posture, whatever. And she's like, "Oh my god, I got gonna kill to go see my chiropractor. I got to get in there." And I feel like I'm hearing a lot more from the younger generation of going to see their chiropractor because I mean they're in bad spots. They are physically not ideal right now with the way they're sitting and looking down and things like that. And so I think we definitely serve a big part of trying to solve that issue.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's, not everyone had to do it. We just did a very soft thing. Like they kind of get to the point where he's like, hey, it's okay, you're golfing 3 times a week. We focused a lot on golfers, then eventually pickleball as it got more and more popular. But it's like, hey, you're doing this 3 times a week. Great. And here's some exercises. Now you're probably going to do some unnatural things. You're probably going to drink your wine and keep doing these things. If you want to maintain those gains, we have a membership where you get like kind of X. You could get up to X per month for just this much per month. And yeah, it wasn't a huge part, but like we had like 16 to 20 grand coming in on the first of the month, just like that. And it was easy visits. They were so easy to keep happy. And if you look at like Netflix and gyms and all these other subscription businesses, like people are used to it. And then getting people in the door is one thing. And I haven't looked at it lately, but like I remember earlier on when we had like probably a little over 700 chiropractors in our system, when they started with us, I looked their kind of like average rate where they dropped off is like visits like 4 through 6, which is kind of crazy.
We actually now coach our clients and just visit for conversation. I think there's 3 times a doctor really needs to like sit down and have a conversation with their patient. There's more, but the framework of it would be, yeah, your report of findings is going to be number one. You do that. Number two is a visit for because either they're out of pain and they want to stop coming in, but they haven't improved their function, or they are not getting better like they thought they would, and and they might fall off at that point because of that. And so you need to just kind of plan on, and it's not exactly visit for obviously, but around there, start thinking about it. And then I would say at the end of discharge and trying to, get them to go from acute care plan to maybe maintenance or performance care. I think if you have a framework of those 3 conversations, you're going to do really well with
It,
patient adherence and obviously just growing a practice.
yeah, like we did that. Like we did like a day 1, day 2. We did kind of like a mini ROF, not quite an ROF on the first visit, and then we kind of close them on the second visit. But some of the people We would treat on the first visit, but like we're in a vacation area. So it's like I used to treat on the second visit, but like a lot of people, they're in pain, they're on vacation, they want to get better. So we just ended up doing that. And then third visit, everyone would have a laminated recipe card. What happens when you quit taking antibiotics early? So, and that prompted a conversation. Walk into the stall and you see they have kind of like the pink laminated thing and just say, "Hey, Kevin, oh, it's like, have you ever taken antibiotics?" And you'll say, "Yes." It's like, "Do you know what happens if you quit taking early? It's prescribed for 10 days. Let's say you get off in like 3 to 4." And then you just have that conversation. Then I just say, "Is like, well, can you treat it with the same kind of antibiotics?" It's like, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And so I did this right after they prepaid for their treatment plan. So on the third visit, we would resell them on why they're doing this. So he said, "Kevin, you came in here. You said that you're only golfing once in a while. Your back hurt. You had to take medications. You want to golf 3 times a week. You got this trip to Italy in the summer that you want to go on with the kids and the grandkids." So even though they paid, we resold them on the third visit and just reminded them. So, and I just said, there's 3 things you have to do. You got to make your visits. You got to do your home exercises, and we got to break the bad habits. Great.
That's good. I like that.
And then just say it anytime that you want to change your goals, I'm happy to change the treatment plan. So if you don't want to come in as often and do as much work, and you don't want to go golfing 3 times a week, and you don't want to go to Italy and carry your grandkids, no big deal, right? I'm okay with it. And I just have that conversation. So they just prepaid for their whole plan and we resold them again on the third visit. And then when I sold the practice, just kind of like fell out of that.
Yeah.
But like that helped a lot. And then we just have automated kind of like messages that go out to different parts in their journey. And the old school table talk thing does work. So,
Yeah.
but
No, absolutely.
Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years, and that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. You know, when you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return, and we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment, and that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, mention MCM podcast and receive a free shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast.
So what is pillar 3?
just reducing labor. We kind of like touched on that. Says like I just find a lot of people don't know where to start. So I just say start with your repetitive, low value tasks, right? And if there's a way to automate that or a way to outsource that, do one or the other. And then, like insurance verification, that's an easy thing. If you have software that's not talking to each other and you're doing manual entry, that's something like answering service, patient onboarding, educational email, automated reactivations. Those are all things. And like, I think eventually it's just going to be AI schedule appointments. And
I just attended virtually the Abundance 360 Summit, which is out in Santa Monica every year, three and a half days worth. And I attended virtually, watched recordings. And one of the things they talked a lot about, and I also heard I forget the CEO of LinkedIn, but is it Benioff? And talk about AI agents and the amount of money being invested into AI agents, and then ultimately curating that AI agent into, and you would train that AI agent in your business like you would train a human being, right? It takes time to onboard them, but essentially that's what you're doing. And I'm excited about that. And I think there are going to be ways where chiropractic practice, there already is, but there's going to be even more kind of crazy out there ways. I mean, I'm even looking at the idea of, the robots that are coming, whether it's the Tesla robot or the other, I think 4 or 5 companies that are developing these robots that you'll be able to have in your house, but theoretically could have in your office. And, I think there's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of futuristic stuff coming, but obviously for the time being, there's a lot of things you can do, like you said, outsourcing. I mean, one of the things we did, and we have now, and we have some clinics that are doing it is, we have a lot of clinic in our office. We have someone that's at the front desk, a human doing all the human things with the humans in the office and being there front and center for the patients in the office. And then we use a company called Havenmed to do all the phone answering and handle that type of stuff. And they also can do like, patient callbacks. They can do insurance verifications and all that. And it's at a much reduced rate than if you hire a United States, like full-time person in the office with employer taxes and benefits and all the things that go into that. So there's a lot of ways you got to start looking at reducing
Well,
labor.
and for some people that have multiple locations, like, and they have a physical staff person, like, I think honestly in the future, and people are already doing that, and I have clients doing it. You'll go have like multiple locations. Patient's gonna just walk in. They're gonna have a card on file. They're gonna check in their kiosk, and you're gonna just have CA and doctor, right?
Yeah.
And you'll have these little doc in the box type things.
Mm.
And I have clients that are doing that with like virtual assistants, but things that we're like working at adding in is like kind of like you call in. This one's like relatively easy AI agent, and then scheduling that and putting into the system. Another thing that we're working on is like I would love to work with like everyone one-on-one, but it's just not scalable. So like more AI and showing them like, hey, here's where you need to focus. Here are the people that you need to call today. Hey, by the way, this is how your front desk is doing, and this is how they're comparing against other front desks. Or here's how you're doing with your dollar per visits. Here's how you're comparing to other chiropractors in the state of Georgia. Right. If like so it's that kind of stuff they're the things that we're doing. A lot of the EHRs are busy working on tying in AI into soap notes and billing, which if I was an EHR, EMR, that's what I would be focused on. So we're kind of like coming at it from a different angle. Cause like for us, we just view ourselves as more of a marriage, like a partnership. We don't try to be the EHR. And yeah, I've seen one of my clients, he did this kind of he had to, he was in like downtown Denver, and he has a virtual assistant in the Philippines at his front desk. And they have 2 monitors. They have one facing the patient and one facing where they work off. And if they have someone that's struggling or having problems, she just turns on her camera, talks to him. You put in your card over here. He's seeing with just one CA in the office. And like, I swear to God, like 4 days a week, like probably like 230 visits a week.
Yeah, it's
So
efficient.
it's very efficient.
It kind of reminds me of, Michael Michalowicz talked about in his book with Profit First is if you really start with a profit margin number, right? Or if like Greg Crabtree wants a business to be a 15% profit, and that's after the owner doctor actually paying themselves a real professional salary. If you start with what your profit margin needs to be or profit needs to be, and then like what Michael McCallowitz talks about is then from there is you can reverse engineer and really make accurate, but sometimes challenging decisions on like, no, we need to be able to do this at this cost, and we need to find a way to do it at this cost. We can't just blow through that and then have cash flow issues consistently because we think we need all these people or all these other expenses to handle it. And I think that's something to consider.
Yeah, no, it's reducing costs overhead by outsourcing and automate is good. I think a lot of times people will look there first, right? And like one of my mentors always said, like, you can't save yourself into a profit. Now, I agree that you do have to control your costs, but like I always just looked at, okay, how much can I increase my price elasticity by increasing the value or increasing the volume. We weren't high volume, but like we definitely were higher volume than the majority of practices. So a few hundred visits a week, but not like 1,000 visits a week.
Love it. Love it. And then pillar 4?
Just reducing your accounts receivable, like for people that are cash only, it's easy, right? Because you're collecting up front. But when you're doing insurance or personal injury and some of these things, like we would just take a look at all the visits that are coming in tomorrow and then seeing who owes money and then just popping in a note. And then if people were receiving services that day and, like when we're doing like some bigger ticket medical ones, we'd collect an estimated amount. Every single patient had to have a card on file, right? And that was a non-negotiable. We had occasionally some people say, I don't want to have a card on file, but like, it was like very rare. It was like just one of our things. You're going to have a card on file. We're going to do an estimate and we're going to try and collect it sooner. Cause like, I remember at one point we had like $240,000 in AR and it was just like, this is like ridiculous. So it's like, we started doing that and then we cut it in less than half.
Yeah.
And,
No, it's huge. And I think, you definitely got to collect, a lot of these doctors are in network with insurances and they have in network deductibles or co-insurances. So it's not just a straight $30 copay like a lot of times it used to be, and the visit might be different, but you should have some form of a calculator. We put together a spreadsheet that actually on the fee schedule for the different insurances, you could plug in, okay, doing these 3 codes and it's a co-insurance of 30%, and then it would spit out they owed whatever. And I know software does that now. This was like, I was in network with insurance like 12 years ago. And you would want to collect from that patient. But yeah, there's going to be times where there is money owed or codes are denied. And I think one of the things that's pretty cool, and I know your software could be used a lot for this, but maybe the days of mailing, like physically mailing a patient statement to that patient goes out the window, or at least early on. And that's something we've been talking a lot in our mastermind where we're talking with one of the particular clinics is like, look, what we do now is utilizing the different softwares we have, but we use cash practice software and we can actually create a unique link. If that patient owes $43.15, actually create a link that they click on it and it says, here's $43.15, and they put their card in and pay. If they don't have the card on file, but if they do, and we will give them a courtesy email and say, or even a 2-way text, however you want to slice it, and say, hey, there's a balance of $43.15. You mind if we run the card on file? Or like more like, okay, in 24 to 48 hours, we will run the card on file. We had your approval to do that, and give them a couple times email back if they want to do something else, whatever. But now you don't have to sit there and mail out 100 statements per se, and you'll get a lot more people paying that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just a waste of time and money to print and mail statements. I'd say like having a card on file, and then like, obviously I was a big fan of prepay. So it's like, we did that. But for people that aren't doing a lot of prepays and doing a lot of insurance, I'd say you'd have to have a card on file. You should like get like some kind of estimate and collect something, even if it's not the full amount. You have an idea of what they're going to pay. And if you over collect, you could always like refund it to them. But we just collected a little bit under, but we collected a large chunk of it. And then, yeah, having Cash Practice or Fortis or one of these other things to do an e-pay, that's great. We have an integration with Cash Practice. We also have one with Fortis, and you'd be able to see all the people coming in tomorrow that owe money. You can look at all the people that left last week that owe money. And then we're adding a thing, which we're just about done, where you could just bulk send it, where they just click it and you could do e-pay statements from there. Nice. So actually, by the time this podcast is live, it's probably going to be done. So
Good. Yeah. So the days of trying to get money out of people with paper statements now you might still have to send them a collections, but that's a different story. All right. Pillar 5.
Well, just say finish your projects, right? It's just like inventory sitting on the shelf. Like if you have 10 partially finished projects, it's not done. It's like, get something done. Some people could only get one project done at a time. Who cares, right? If you can only focus on one thing at a time, work on it, get it done, get it shipped, good enough. So it's like, I'll work on like 3 to 5 simultaneous things. It's no big deal. It's not bragging or anything like that, but like, I don't work on 10 simultaneous things. It just, for me, I I try to get something done good enough and get it shipped and get a minimal viable product, not a minimal product. Cause like you can't do it super half-assed and get a minimal product out the door. But
I don't,
like, yeah.
yeah, and I want to connect the dots on that a little bit and how it might relate to, like a lot of chiropractors are just struggling with volume in a sense. Like they're just not getting enough new patients or office visits in their practice. And that's why they have they have a profit issue is because of that. That could be the only thing, right? Like they could be as lean as possible. They might be all that, but finish the project might mean like go do the marketing. Don't wait till it's perfect and you're like a savant at community outreach and MD meetings and this and that. Go just do it. You'll get better at it and that type of stuff, focusing on those leading indicators to get out there and actually do the work of marketing and getting out there and position yourself as an expert will bring in more people, will allow you to charge more money and will help with your profits. So, yeah, like you said, just ship it is kind of an analogy of just like ship your ass to the local gym and talk to that trainer or ship your ass to the MD and have that meeting and just start doing it because no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of docs out there are working too many hours. Now, I know it seems counterintuitive because we talked about seeing more people, but if your schedule isn't that full, just close it down partway through. So for us, like before we had kids, I had a wider range of hours, but like I cluster booked like when I saw patients and I was seeing younger people, older people. And then as we had kids, you could relate to this. It's like I wanted to be there for things and I was like feeling like I'm missing things. So like I focused even harder on that older demographic because like when I was early on in practice working for one of my mentors like downtown, like the 10:30-ish through like 2:33-ish was like a really hard slot to fill. But like with the retirement community, it was easy. Now filling up things after 4 p.m. when it starts getting dark, that's a little harder. And but like they wanted to come between 9 and like 4:35, and it was like perfect for us. So I could start a little bit later, leave a little bit earlier. And yes, we missed out on like the working folks, but it was better for my personal and family life.
Yep. And we'll leave it with one little tip for some of our newer docs. Yeah, like schedule the Medicare patients at 10:30 a.m., not at 7:30 a.m. when your working crew's trying to get in there, right? Like book particular types of patients. Don't fill up your 5 to 6 p.m. with Medicare patients. Save that for the folks getting out of work and need to get in before you close.
Yeah, like, and I have, like one of my friends, he feels bad because like there's no one, everyone's opted out of Medicaid in his area and he wants to serve these people. It's like, well, it doesn't mean you have to serve them at all times. So just say, hey, he has trouble filling up his like 10:30 to 12 and his like 2 to 4. Great. That's the time that he's going to see him. So he still gets to serve those people. He still gets to help them because he's complaining that he doesn't have time to see these other patients. It's like, just see them during certain hours. Like there's
I like that.
I don't
Hey,
think there's discrimination. And I don't know this next part, but like I have some clients that do this and they say, if you want to go in these other hours, you have to be part of our membership. So I'm not a compliance person, so I'm not going to say that's allowed or not, but I will say I know people doing that as well.
Well, though, this is great. I always love having you on. I like having chiropractors on that have been in the trenches and then are entrepreneurial and have a lot of wisdom, and you certainly check those boxes. So thanks for your time today and your ideas.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and tell us how can they reach out to you and learn a little bit
Yeah.
more about TrackStat? How maybe what are a few things that your software does that would help them with some of these aspects?
A lot of things, right? So most of the time, the cost of their appointment reminder system is ours, right? So like that's an easy thing. Online scheduling, integrating in like things like Cash Practice or Fortis, because Cash Practice or Fortis is gonna be the merchant part and is gonna post payments back, but it doesn't have visit information. So we're tying the two together so you can manage a membership a lot easier. I wish we had this TrackStat back when I was in practice. You could manage like AR a lot easier. You could manage those e-statement part easier. If you're doing a lot of social media advertising, you find that half of your patients are no-showing. Something that they could do with that is they could drive them to a free phone consult or a paid first visit. So that way you get rid of that no-show problem. And if they no-show, it's only a 10 or 15-minute phone consult. You teach doing metrics like KPIs, we'll automate that. We make it really easy for frontline people or solopreneurs to know what to focus on. And we just automate everything else. And with AI and stuff like that, we're just really busy adding a lot of that in. Our goal is to take a really busy office and get by with one front desk instead of 2 or 3, and taking a solopreneur and just allowing them to be a solopreneur for a lot longer. So like I don't think it's ever going to replace people, but like it's going to allow like an A or a B player to get like 100 times more work done.
Yeah, trackstat.org. But yeah, the saying is human plus AI is better than human, and it's also better than AI. So human plus AI is where it's at. And it's what's cool about having softwares like yours, where it's integrating that AI, and now your team that you do have is going to be that much more efficient. So, and they can do like demos at the web, like schedule demos.
They could use it for free. They could go to trackstat.org, go click watch demo. There's a video. They could schedule a call and get a more detailed thing. And then, from there, if they like it, they just do a free trial, and pretty much everyone just moves forward at that point. Cause like once they see all the revenue opportunities that they're missing out on, not even just the automations, it just, instead of a nice to have, it becomes a must have. And, I would love this profession to kind of move forward. I feel like I owe a lot to it. Getting chiropractors to agree on like anything is difficult, right? There's a number of there's like number of listeners in this camp that feel a certain way. There's a number of listeners in another camp that feel a different way. And I think everyone could agree, whether you're a straight or a mixer or different kinds of chiropractors, that having more money in your bank account at the end of the year is going to be something that all of us could agree on.
Yeah, my whole thing is trying to get evidence-based chiropractors to realize they can be really great patient-centered chiropractors and not have a stigma attached to actually doing well financially. So, well, thanks, Naota. I really appreciate everything again, and we'll have you on in the near future. Okay.
Thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy it. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.